going to discuss is, investors and founders typically work together towards a common goal, create wealth for both, and grow companies, to try and achieve unicorn status, and obviously try solve larger problems. So over here, where let me kind of start with the basics of why they chose each other, and maybe Bhavish and Krishan can go ahead and explain how the entire journey started.
So, it looks it's very fancy to have a, venture fund come and invest in your company, right? I'm sure many of you would love that. But, I've always said that it's like having a mother-in-law come and live with you permanently. Just imagine that for a minute. It's not easy. How many of you are willing to keep your mother-in-laws forever? Forever. It's like how many of you? Yeah. You're the only one who can take venture funding in this entire team of people, right? But it started about a year and a half ago. It's very interesting how businesses also pivot. We actually invested in a telemedicine business. We said, India has a fundamental, access problem, right? And access can, you can't, there's only so much capacity building you can do. If I put a medical college today, it will take 5 years for me to produce a doctor. But we still have to build some efficiencies in the healthcare model. So we actually invested in a telemedicine business. It was a beautiful telemedicine business. It had its own AI-driven, medical records, totally integrated. We loved the technology. We said, this is a SaaS play, and let's sell it to hospitals who want to build telemedicine practices, or we'll try and do a B2C play like everybody else does. But Krishan, where are you today? And what are you trying to do? Let's talk about that.
So as Bhavish mentioned that we started from a telemedicine, and it's like a quite interesting journey how it has pivoted today. So in last 1.5 years, we have almost taken 7 to 8 pivots, and this is how I see as a venture capitalist or an angel investor. So in the morning when we had this session, that what's the biggest challenge of a founder? The biggest challenge of a founder is the team building. So the investor who has already invested in you, it's like they have the interest, and treat the investor as your team. So this is how we have me and Bhavish have been working together. So we saw that okay, telemedicine is there, it's working fine in urban area, it's going good, but is it enough? So is it scalable, or is there something more? So then we realized, okay, telemedicine has few inherent challenges over there. It doesn't have the trust. It doesn't have that factor that okay, I can take it beyond the urban areas. Then we realized, okay, now we have to move to the rural market. So will the telemedicine work over there? Okay, so there has to be a touch factor over there. Touch and tech, these are the two things which are required in the healthcare. So in India, we still cannot say okay, that a patient who is explaining his problem over telemedicine, he will feel okay, I have seen the doctor. Till the time doctor doesn't touch the patient, he doesn't feel it. So now we are mostly into rural areas, treating the chronic disease management, solving the problem, that accessibility, managing the disease, as well as financing the disease. So right now we have financing the disease, disease management, the accessibility and manageability. So this is how we have pivoted from the telemedicine right now.
So, my next question, to Samir and Taranjeet, obviously, when Samir invested and now what Agnest is, it'd be good to understand how, you guys have evolved, and, what kind of inputs you've got from each other, and what are the learnings?
No, we were just, hi, good afternoon, everyone. We were just debating whether the story of Agnext should go first or how it evolved. All in all, Agnext is, I'll let Taran explain more about what Agnext is. But when it came to invest in Agnext, personally for me, it was important that it has a vision which is much wider than perhaps any other ag sort of startup is looking at. And it is solving the basic problem in the most simplistic way. It is so simple that there is no way that it will be stopped from becoming ubiquitous. So from an investor point of view, the whole reach which Agnes will be generating is amazing. Personally though, because we were studying together, and for me, the first criteria in any investment I make is the sort of the character of the person, character of the team, because I firmly believe that the personality of the CEO translates into the personality of the company. So, I mean, the kind of honesty and perseverance which Taran has been the biggest sort of attraction. And then he has put together a very good team as well. So it made very easy for me to kind of put the money there. And now about Agnex.
Thanks, Samir. So I'm just coming right now from Singapore. I just came from the airport. I think Vineet ensured that I just come down straight and do not go home. We won the top 5 companies in Asia yesterday. Sorry. So this was an eminent panel of all the food and agribusiness companies across the world, CEOs from Nestle, Cargill, all of the Asia heads and global heads were there to evaluate. After a gruesome round, we emerged as the top 5, and now we are going to present in Shanghai and going to partner with at least 20 to 30 large companies for a worldwide scalable business. Now, the story just 2 years back, when I met even Bhavish and tried to explain what we were doing, it was very different. It's good. Because what happened is, what is more important, Agnext is more like a SpaceX of agriculture. We spent a lot of time in research. We spent around 3 years and nobody made heads or tail of what this guy is doing, which is very good for us, because unless and until we solve a problem as elementary as you call it in language of elementary, my dear Watson, you're not able to solve it. We went as much basics as physics in terms of understanding what a molecule is in a leaf or what a molecule is in an apple, and how can we analyze it. These kind of things, while the whole of the talk on AgTech was, let's fly satellites, let's fly drones, let's solve problems, we just couldn't find something scalable there. So we went on, we have around 11 patents and we have around 30 more coming up in the next 1 year. So we'd be putting around 40 odd patents, and this is all based on our huge research that we first invested into. And then we suddenly came into an idea that, we had been working on solving agriculture by data. And data that never existed. Data that used to be of intuition. Data that, somebody sees a fruit or a vegetable or something and sees, this is this quality and I will pay you this much. That is the breaking bone of the entire agriculture industry in the world. Why? Because look like this, you are from a top college of India, for suppose. What will happen if the same company came to your campus and gave a 9-pointer and a 4-pointer the same job at the same value? Over a period of time, the student will just give up. The students won't have any incentive to study or become a 9-pointer. Why? Because whether I'm 4 or 9, I get the same. The same thing happened with agriculture, with farmers. Over 50, 60 years, what has happened is, whether I'm an ugly farmer, a good or a bad, when I go to sell, I get almost the same price. So what incentive do I have to slog 6 months and bring a good crop to the seller? The seller tries to maximize by, not finding quality and then kind of just see that, this is the price I will give you. So we went on to solve that problem at the buyer-seller interaction first. We created technologies that can instantly analyze what others methodologies could do in 15 days. We did it in 15 seconds. So for example, we use spectrometry in order to analyze the chemical characteristic. With AI, obviously, I don't call ourselves an AI company because I just find it too ridiculous to say. AI is just an application. It is not an AI-based company. The idea is it is a spectrometry-based company with data sciences involved. We went into image processing to find the image quality or the quality of produce just by clicking a picture. So tea leaves, we can just click a picture and tell what is the tea leaf quality. And imagine, and whosoever is fancy about, joining agriculture, is just tea leaves in India is a $6 billion buying. $6 billion. Yeah, and we have an agreement to make it mandatory all across the industry. And we are talking 100 more commodities and we are talking 100 more markets. It's a 10,000x at a $6 billion. This is what is agriculture is if you see from a different perspective. And not the perspective that everyone sitting in a Silicon Valley or a London office kind of thinks it is. It is not. It is about, just going from the basic, asking the basic question, how do I going to solve such a large problem for the world? And bringing image analysis to tea industry, to 2-3 more industry. We don't have a single sales, we are based out of Mohali. We don't even have a single salesperson till date, and we just have inbounds after inbounds. We are in right now in 5 countries. We are looking to expand to 25 countries in just 6 months more. It's just because of the quality of the product that you build and your thought to how do I go as elementary as possible in order to solve something large. Just do not think agriculture is from day to morning, what are you working for? Food, right? The whole population is working for what else? Not for the fancy clothes, but for food. And if the food goes bad, what is left for the civilization? And it has gone bad. The farmers do not have incentives. The quality, what you are drinking is full of 70% of milk is carcinogenic. This is what is AgNext. It's about solving a much larger problem which nobody has seen data-wise. And it's just on data. Data for analysis and data for, how scalable you can make a business. So yes, we are using the best of technology, but we are solving the largest problem, which is quality. Because if we solve quality in agriculture and food chain, we are solving a huge problem for the whole industry. And that is a testimony to what at Singapore happened. There were 159 companies from all over the Asia. And we were selected in the top 5. And literally every investment bank or investment, I would say, venture capitalist now wants to, come together with AgNext to scale this globally. So coming from Mohali 2 years back when, we were researching and putting it up and coming to this point, I think it's just shows agriculture is something that we all should focus on. If we are talking about food for billions, we should be spending billions on food. And not on scooters.
Dr. Anirudh Malpani, who's a very well-known angel investor, made an interesting point. He said we are putting billions in food delivery, but not where food is being, produced.
Yeah, first of all, categorically, I will say Swiggy is not a food tech. It should be taken out and it should not be brought onto a food tech platform. Food tech is what is, you are solving protein problem. You are solving for the, the milk that our children are drinking, which is cancer. How are we going to solve that? Is what it should be food tech. Just sending delivery boys is not food tech.
So I guess in last 5 minutes, you got what I was trying to say, the personality of the CEO, that's the kind of the passion which is there. And that's why I can, as an investor, for the wider benefit of the audience here, as an investor, that's where I put my money in. And it's not just about AgNext per se. Any industry, if we take the basics of our everyday sort of, what our PM says, ease of living, if that has to be improved, it's not just agriculture, there are 100 other things which need to work out well. So if you have an idea where you are picking that up, solving it, using what is the latest technology available, that's an idea worth looking at. And what we just heard about agriculture, I have similar experiences in education, similar with intellectual property right. It's with the sort of digital, I myself have moved from banking in Singapore to now I'm in media in India. Every sector has that potential today. So you need not be, in a particular setup to build that. Out of Mohali, I'm looking at this investment as turning into a unicorn. There is no doubts that AgNext will be $1 billion company very soon. So
it's vice versa. Samir is my, and later on Kalali, Omnivore, everyone came. But, I always look at a team. when we look for investors, it's all about the personality and the gusto and the passion that the investor brings in. That's very important. Because over and end, if you end up in wrong, you just kill the whole idea. Samir, by the way, is a IIT topper. He's an IM topper. He went on to do, I think, head investment banking globally across 5 continents. And then he started an agribusiness movie, which got a national award from the President of India. It's just and he just came back to India to, serve the nation. I mean, just left Singapore in a very high paying just to serve the nation, and he's working with the PMO right now. It just shows, the passion and dedication one has, and that's the kind of people we would like to bring into AgNext and take it into a truly global company out of Mohali.
Thank you, guys. I think my next question is, two sides of the same coin. One, I'm going to ask Bhavish and, Krishan to give us the expectations that they have from each other. And then you guys can, pitch in on the reality of what actually happens. So,
Yeah, so I think, interestingly, both the investments here are impact investments. One is a rural health tech, the other is rural agriculture, right? I mean, it's interesting to see how, these two companies have kind of originated from Chandigarh, Mohali, whatever you want to call it. And they both turned out to be impact. So, the measurement is impact, right? I mean, it could be linked to sustainable development goals where, so in case of Medrimetry, we have a very simple, India has a very high proportion of diabetics and hypertension patients. We want to shift that disease burden. That's all we want to achieve. Very nice. Right? That's all we want to achieve.
Very nice.
There's nothing else. There is no other goal which he has.
apart from money, Krishan.
So as far as
Do the right thing, money will follow.
So as far as we talk about the investor-founder relationship, so I have found that when we started from the telemedicine journey to the what we are doing right now, we are making India's rural healthcare more accessible, affordable, and manageable. So we have found that as a founder who is always busy in the execution. So it's like as a founder, I have been always busy in the execution, and I need someone who can view at the 500 feet view. Okay, so this is the problem which you might run into. So you have to pivot like this. So it's like this founder and investor relationship is just like one team who is always on the ground. The army is on the ground, and the air cover is provided by the investor. Because investor, they have a lot access to lot of research-oriented industry experts. They can connect to them. They can make connections, and this is what is something because in the initial days, it's only the investor and the founder who believe in that idea. So it's like something which has to be the core team, because people will go, people will come and they will go. But investor and founder, they remain. They are basically married to each other till that time. So that's what I say we have Bhavish, we have been.
I don't want you to think I'm married to him. Huh? There's a slightly
What he says, there's no
connotation.
divorce letter, that's it.
Yeah, please don't get my orientations wrong.
Interesting. And, so you guys, over to you guys in terms of what is the reality of working with each other? How many times you have to pull each other's hair? What are the pitfalls? What do you really find difficult? And how do you overcome those? Aspiring entrepreneurs would want to know how to, take that head on. And
Well, the two aspects to it. Purely as an investor, I'm not very happy with Taran because he has, to my mind, he has gone for kind of a dilution way too early. Because when people started believing, more and more people started believing in idea, then he raised more money than probably we should have probably waited, purely from investment point of view. But then that would have given him a lot more nightmares. I mean, he still sleeps less than 3 hours per night, I know, but he's still in a much more comfortable position by raising a couple of, extra millions, I would say. So as a balance of the two, you have to, I would say that, because it's like a baby growing up, right? Every 2-3 weeks, there's a new personality character in the baby. was crawling and then suddenly it's walking. The mindset of that baby is very different from a crawling stage where the world is a horizontal eyesight to standing up eyesight. So the kind of adjustment parents have to make in handling the baby, something of that sort is needed from the investor's point of view as well. And I expect the CEO of the company to translate that level of agility in growing the company, because I've not invested in a team of like 15 or 20 or 50. So, but the team dynamics, which is the most important, especially in India, like, getting good quality people, probably the toughest job. So the moment you have 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, I want to see those changes into the management style, which is very rough personally, I know it's very rough to expect from someone who has slogged for 3-4 years to get the idea right. And then now you're like, you know what, forget about the idea, focus on people now. Forget about your research guys now. Now you focus on the sales. So it's a tough ask, but that is something which he needs to do. And for that, every board meeting, there is a lot of grilling. Yeah. He's been keeping well so far. And I'm, I'm hoping that now in the next phase, when there's a rapid growth, it's like hormones kicking in. So I think AgNext is at that stage where it's turning a teenager. So I would expect Taran to be a good parent and become a friend rather than a parent, of the employees and the company.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice metaphorism here in terms of, the whole first team that, as you said, there's a character to it. We want to be benevolent, we want to be very good, but what happens is over a period of time as a teenager grows, as he says, Samir, he meets all his different friends who have, let's do something else. So that kind of things, how do you channelize and keep your teenager as fresh and as good in thoughts as a Samaritan that you wanted him to be or her to be when he or she was 2, 3 or 5 years old? That's the challenge, because teenager is the most difficult one. But once that this teenager age is gone and the kid is in the university, I think then it's all about personality development. So we are in that stage, and what Samir is trying to just put down is that we have to build that character of the company. And that is very important for all the entrepreneurs out here. Because whatever the first team has thought or envisioned, that should never get diluted. He's talking just dilution about money, not about the character. So never dilute the character of the company, come whatsoever may. And that might take a lot of sacrifices from yourself, from your family, from your employees, because forces come and try to take it all over. To pull it together and keeping it is the strength of the entrepreneur. And I would sincerely request that always see that strength in your company. Never let the character go out, even if it is lucrative or even if it is, a shortcut. Because in the end, what you build is that first vision and making it better and much more scalable.
Perfect. I don't know how much time we have, but we can throw the floor open for some questions.
I find that as the company scales up, it is very hard to control the culture or just maintain that kind of character or culture. As more people come in, different ideas come in. So how do you assess the people when you employ them, or how do you plan to manage when more people will come, new ideas will come? How do you try to manage the character in the future to come? That's my question.
Before we answer it from AgNext point of view, just based on my personal experience, it's a very good question though. Personal experience point of view, like working in a global organization and then within India, pan-India, and now I'm kind of running a startup within the government. It's all about the individual at the top. Are you growing up to accommodate a lot more? It's if you have stretched your personality to be good and to be able to run a company with 20, 30 people. The moment you have 50, it'll be a chaos. Now, how do you grow into that is something, it's kind of a spiritual practice for the individual. Are you ready to lead a team of 100? What does it take? It's like, in a joint family system which we had in India. The top person, whoever is the head of the family, do you have that view towards the entire family? Then you'll be able to run it successfully. Otherwise, it will remain a nucleus. Especially from Agnex's point of view, I mean, what Taran has been doing is really well. So I just...
As you said, a culture is a decision a team makes when the CEO is not there. That is his culture. So, how you build that from 2 people to 200 is that's the story. That's the story that you need to always focus, because you're very right. It should never get deviant, because the moment it gets deviation, your company goes, frictions, physics comes in. So you have to ensure as smooth as possible. So that will only come how you are actually passing on one by one and creating a team. I think look at good sports movies in Netflix. that will probably, or a band movies, how the band member or the sports captain kind of keeps the team together. Don't want entrepreneur movies.
I have to add to it. So basically, we are in that stage where we are hiring we are hiring the team or building the team. So just like every person, they have a DNA traits. Every company also has its own DNA, and you have to be very much conscious about it, like how you are building your company. So it's like after 50 or like close to 100 employees when they are there. So the company has formed its own DNA. So it's very difficult to change the DNA after the company has reached the strength of 100. But till the time you are reaching that 100, you have to be very much careful how or what type of people you are bringing in. So like like last year we hired few key middle management person. It's like we had interviewed those. In that 1 hour interview, we were impressed. Okay, yes, this is the one we want. But eventually, when the time of performance came, it didn't turn out that well. So now what we have moved to the strategy. We don't do the interview. We do the initial interaction. Give them a weeks of okay. So let's not force our culture on them. This is an open culture company. Come work with us for a week. If you feel like you can work here, you can work in this environment, then let's talk about like, okay, what should be the terms of engagement. If you feel like you cannot work in this environment, okay, it's like open world. You are free, we are free. So it's like you have to be very much sure what type of people you are bringing in. Till the time you reach the 100 people strength, you have to be very much sure. After that, it's very difficult to dilute the culture of the company.
Just to add to that, I mean, he's spot on. From a trading parlance, it's very important to know once you're putting a trade on, you're always hoping for the price to go up and take the profit. That's there. But you should always be probably extra careful when to cut the losses. So similarly with hiring with the people, you would be hiring a lot of people, but which are the bad apples, so to say? You have to let them go very quickly. And that is the most difficult part.
I want to reiterate what Samir said. The larger corporations where we have all worked in our corporate careers, all of us, they have the ability to be able to sustain a non-performer for a very long period of time. In startups, you don't have that because you're not only playing with somebody else's money, you're also making sure that you also will not be successful. So that's a very hard part. It's a very sad thing to do. You don't have to do it the American way. You just make somebody stand outside the office and say, we'll ship you your stuff. You don't go to that extreme, but help them find jobs. And we've done that for a lot of people. We've given them good references. We said, we'll keep your emails on till you can find, we'll say that you're still employed on our roles. So I think there's a nicer way to do it, but yeah, it needs to be done.
Yeah, so I will just take 20 seconds of sales pitch here. The whole idea of moving to Chandigarh was obviously a very good work-life balance. I don't belong here, I didn't study. I just moved to India and came to Chandigarh and started. The whole idea was there are such good research institutions here. As I said, we were like SpaceX of Agri, we spend a lot of time on research first. So my idea was ICER, all these colleges, CABI and all that, how can we, get good research guys and work along with them. But I was not successful in getting much. So my just small space sales pitch is, if you guys are from ICER or other colleges who would like some cutting edge research transitioning into a global product, want to work, please do reach out to companies like Medimetry and Agnext and others who are also looking out for you. Otherwise, we have to rush to IIT Kharagpur and IIT Ropar and IIT Mandi and all those mountains here and there. It's like 1 kilometer away. So if you guys are really looking, no point doing researching and roaming around these nice parks and campuses. Come over, work with us, see how we are able to come together to build something great from here.
That's beautiful, Taran. Thank you for doing that. Those of you who want to apply to Medimetry must warn you, non-performers get blocked in the toilet. Huh? Krishan does that regularly. So just be careful before you do that. Yes, Ritika. Yeah. Is there a Vineet, can you give her a mic? We can hear you. Okay, perfect. Okay. Deal breakers. Karan, you want to start? No, I'm trying to put my thoughts together.
Fine, you start. You're on the spotlight today.
Well, see, the pivoting is an essential aspect of startup funding. But when that pivoting is happening, that's a clear departure from the initial sort of statement, right? But when that pivoting is happening for, I would say, non-ethical reasons, when I say non-ethical, it need not be just black and white lies, but to the spirit of the initial statement. So, for example, like say, with all the deals which are happening, tomorrow Taran wants to invest a lot of money into a call center because suddenly he has all these, that will be a wrong pivoting, even if it may be, it may make sense monetarily. So personally, again, it's investor to investor. It might be a profitable, lucrative aspect, but if it is not to the spirit of, we've not been putting money into AgNext for non-agricultural aspects. For that, there are other companies which can do a much better job, or maybe just, so that would be a point I would say that when the company is not true to the original values, that will be a potential point.
Yeah, I think I want to just, Taran, if you don't mind, I just want to add to what Samir said. I think the core thing is at the stage where Samir and I are investing, the bet is on the entrepreneur. Okay, the stage where Karan is investing, the focus is on business economics. So when I am betting on the entrepreneur, it's all about his value system. Yeah. If the value system is not something we can depend on, then no matter what you do, the business is not going to scale.
Very right.
And the entrepreneurs have to look at us as a part of the integral part of the team, and not play games with us. Hide information, which is happens. Karan and me talk about it all the time. It's not games people play. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, Taran.
Yeah. You want to take? I think from any person's perspective, whether it's an employee, whether it's a client, or whether it's a vendor or even investor, integrity is the most important thing that I see is a deal breaker. Because at moment, and it's pretty easy to, first agree that we tend to disagree. I mean, every person is different. I have led teams in sports, music. I have seen different kinds of shades of personality. So imbibing them in a common culture is fine. But if the kind of the snapping happens when the value system goes bad, the integrity losses are the biggest friction for any company. So that is there is no looking back. It's about cutting the cord then and there itself. Even in investors, because some investors might come and say, hey, why don't you do that? When we are persevering, it's hard perseverance. It's not a shortcut that for next round of yours, we would kind of, whatever 3 years we have worked in, we want to do in next 2 months because you have suddenly realized this Google want to invest in that. It does not make sense. It's a perseverance and it's a value system of the corporate that has to go, and it should not be snapped at all.
Yeah, on top of that, like what Bhavish said, value system integrity, that's foremost. But the again thing is that disagreements are always there. So whenever we are doing any discussions, and there are always failures. So how do we handle those failures? How do we handle those disagreements? That patience. So that's another thing. If it's like one or the other party doesn't have that perseverance, that patience, or how to handle those disagreements, that's again one of the major deal breakers.
No, I think this is, we're running out of time. So last question, if there's one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is it highly suggestive to have an investor from the same industry that I am working in, or it doesn't matter much?
How does it matter?
Like for example, let's say I am in education industry, and if the other person is, the investor is from education industry, then they are bringing the expertise of that industry plus the networking of that industry.
नहीं देखिए इसके पर्सपेक्टिव अच्छे भी हैं बुरे भी हैं. अगर आपका सेम इंडस्ट्री वाला है वो आपको बहुत कुछ बताएगा.
Angel stage, then it's better that you take the funds from the same domain because they will be able to guide you. But if you have crossed that seed A and series A, then it's more about the business expansion or scalability.
Fine. Thank you, sir.
All right, I think a big round of applause for all our panelists.